In 1988, a research vessel drifting above the mid-Atlantic ridge lowered a camera into water so deep that sunlight had never touched it. What came back on that grainy footage was not supposed to exist. The creature moved like something out of a fever dream. Arms, if you could call them that, stretched beyond the frame of the camera, impossibly thin, impossibly long. They didn't swim, they drifted, like the limbs of a marionette controlled by invisible strings, suspended in absolute darkness. For over 3 decades we've been finding them, always in the deepest parts of the ocean, always alone, and every time we do, they're doing the same thing, standing, in water 4 kilometers deep. The bigfin squid doesn't look like other cephalopods. It doesn't hunt like them. It doesn't move like them. And the more we've studied the fragments of footage we have, the more scientists have realized something deeply unsettling. We don't understand what it is. Of the roughly 30 recorded sightings across the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans, not a single specimen has ever been captured alive. Not one adult body has been recovered intact. What we know comes from ROV encounters, remotely operated vehicles stumbling upon these creatures in trenches and abyssal plains where the pressure would crush a human body in seconds. The first clear footage came from the Gulf of Mexico in 2007. An oil rig's ROV, conducting a routine survey at 2,285 meters, recorded something hanging motionless in the water column. At first, the operators thought it was debris, a tangle of cables maybe, discarded fishing line. Then it moved. The arms, 10 of them, extended downward in near-perfect symmetry, each one between 4 and 8 meters long. The body, by contrast, was absurdly small. A bulbous head no larger than a grapefruit with fins that undulated gently, keeping the creature suspended in place. But it was the arms that disturbed everyone who saw the footage. They were filament-thin, delicate, and at the ends, faint structures resembling elbows allowed each limb to bend at irregular angles. The creature looked like a spider made of wet string, hovering in an environment where nothing should hover. It wasn't hunting. It wasn't fleeing. It was simply there. The ROV approached. The creature didn't react. It maintained its posture, arms dangling into the void below, each one adorned with suckers so small they could barely be seen on camera. When the vehicle's lights shifted, the squid began to rise, slowly, as though pulled by something unseen. Its body stayed rigid, the arms stayed extended, and then, without warning, it retracted all 10 limbs upward in unison and vanished into the darkness above the ROV's light field. The entire encounter lasted 11 minutes. For years after that encounter, marine biologists debated what they had witnessed. The scientific name eventually given to the genus, Magnapina, translates to bigfin, but the name is almost laughable when you consider the disproportion. The fins are not the creature's most defining feature, not even close. It's the arms, and the length of those arms violates almost every rule we understand about deep-sea predation. Most squid are ambush hunters or active swimmers. Their arms are muscular, lined with powerful suckers designed to grip struggling prey. They're built for speed, for strength, for the violent mechanics of survival in an environment where every calorie counts. The bigfin squid has none of that. Its arms are thread-like, fragile-looking, covered in tiny suckers that suggest a feeding strategy we've never observed. Some researchers believe the arms act like fishing lines, dangling in the water, passively waiting for small crustaceans, zooplankton, or slow-moving organisms to brush against them. Others think the squid might drag its limbs along the seafloor, sifting through sediment for buried prey. But here's the problem. Every time we've filmed a bigfin squid, it's been hovering. Not near the seafloor, not near any surface, just suspended in open water, arms hanging down into nothingness. Which raises the question, what is it waiting for? There are no currents strong enough at that depth to deliver prey. No dense plankton blooms. No reason for a predator to remain stationary in the middle of the abyss unless its strategy depends on something we can't see. One hypothesis suggests the arms might be sensory organs as much as feeding appendages. The deep ocean is a place where vision becomes almost useless. Bioluminescence helps, but only at close range. For a creature that seems to live in total isolation, those impossibly long limbs might be the only way to detect movement across vast distances, like a spider feeling vibrations in its web. Except there is no web. Just 10 thread-thin arms stretching into the dark waiting for something to touch them. We've found bigfin squid at depths most marine life avoids entirely, 2,000 meters, 3,000 meters, in some cases nearly 5,000 meters below the surface. At these depths, The pressure exceeds 500 atmospheres. The temperature hovers just above freezing. There is no light, no sound, except for the occasional crack of shifting tectonic plates or the distant calls of whales that never descend this far. And yet, the bigfin squid thrives here, or at least we assume it does. The truth is, we don't know if what we're seeing represents a healthy population or the last remnants of something dying out. Every encounter is the same. A lone individual, hovering in the void, motionless except for the faint pulse of its fins. No feeding behavior, no mating displays, no aggression. In 2015, researchers analyzing footage from the Perdido Fold Belt discovered something that deepened the mystery. One of the squid they recorded had arms exceeding 11 meters in length. The body, still tiny, was less than 30 centimeters across. That means the arms were more than 36 times the length of the body. No other cephalopod comes close to this ratio. No other animal, in fact, exhibits such extreme disproportion. It's as if evolution designed the bigfin squid specifically for this environment and then pushed the design past any reasonable limit. But why? What advantage could such extreme elongation provide? Dr. Michael Vecchione, a leading cephalopod expert at the Smithsonian, has studied the available footage extensively. He suggested that the arms might reduce the squid's metabolic needs. In the deep sea, food is scarce. Energy is precious. A passive feeding strategy, one that requires almost no movement, could be the only way to survive in an environment where active hunting is too costly. But even that theory has problems. Because if the bigfin squid is truly passive, if it's simply drifting and waiting for food to come to it, then how does it reproduce? How does it find a mate in an ocean where individuals might be separated by hundreds of kilometers? We don't know. We've never observed two bigfin squid together. In 2001, a marine biologist named Richard Ellis published a paper titled The Search for the Giant Squid. In it, he described the deep ocean as the largest habitat on Earth about which we know the least. That statement is still true today. We have better maps of the surface of Mars than we do of our own ocean floor, and the bigfin squid exists in the part of that floor we've explored the least. Of the 30 or so confirmed sightings, almost all have been accidental. ROVs searching for oil deposits, scientific missions mapping underwater geology, submersibles investigating hydrothermal vents. The bigfin squid is never the target. It's always the surprise, and every time we find one, it raises more questions than it answers. Why have we never found juveniles? Why have we never recovered a complete adult specimen? In 2018, researchers in the Indian Ocean deployed a deep-sea trawling net at 2,800 meters. When they hauled it back to the surface, they found fragments of what appeared to be bigfin squid tissue, thin, gelatinous, and heavily damaged by the pressure change. DNA analysis confirmed it belonged to Magna pinna, but the sample was too degraded to provide any meaningful biological data. It was a ghost, a trace, proof that the creature existed, but nothing more. The frustrating reality is that the bigfin squid seems to exist in a space just beyond our ability to study it. Too deep for most submersibles, too fragile to survive capture, too rare to predict where the next encounter might be, and so we're left with footage. Grainy, unstable footage of a creature that moves like nothing else on Earth. If you watch every recorded encounter back to back, a pattern emerges. The bigfin squid doesn't swim, not in the way we understand swimming. It hovers, arms extended downward, body angled slightly upward, fins pulsing in slow, rhythmic waves. The entire creature looks like it's been frozen mid-descent, caught in a state of perpetual falling that never completes. Marine biologists call this posture arms-down drifting, but that name doesn't capture how unnatural it looks. Most squid move with purpose. They jet through the water, arms trailing behind them, or pulled tight against their bodies. They maneuver. They react. The bigfin squid does none of this. It simply exists in place, as though the concept of movement is optional. One research team in Japan spent months analyzing the fin movements captured in Gulf of Mexico footage. They discovered that the fins don't generate forward thrust. They're not propelling the squid through the water. Instead, they're compensating for drift, tiny adjustments that keep the creature stable in slow, deep currents. The squid isn't going anywhere. It's holding position. But why? What could possibly require a predator to remain motionless in the middle of the abyss, arms extended for hours, possibly days at a time? Dr. Heather Judkins, a cephalopod specialist at the University of South Florida, has proposed a theory she calls opportunistic suspension feeding. The idea is that the bigfin squid isn't hunting in any traditional sense. It's functioning more like a jellyfish, a passive collector of organic matter, detritus, and small organisms that drift past its arms in the slow, invisible currents of the deep sea. It's a survival strategy built on patience, on stillness, on becoming part of the environment rather than moving through it. If true, it would make the bigfin squid one of the strangest predators on the planet. A cephalopod, an entire class of animals known for intelligence, speed, and aggression, reduced to something closer to a living net. But even that explanation feels incomplete, because in every piece of footage we have, the arms aren't just hanging. They're positioned, spread out in specific angles, maintaining tension. It's not the posture of something passive, it's the posture of something waiting. In 2020, a deep-sea expedition off the coast of Australia captured the clearest footage of a bigfin squid ever recorded. The ROV approached slowly, lights dimmed to avoid startling the creature. For nearly 14 minutes, the squid remained perfectly still. And then, for the first time on camera, something happened. One of the arms twitched, not in response to the ROV, not in response to any visible stimulus, just a single, sharp contraction, like a reflex. And in that moment, the research team realized something they hadn't considered before. The bigfin squid wasn't passive, it was listening. The Australian footage changed everything. For years, scientists had assumed the bigfin squid's stillness was a product of energy conservation. A creature so deep, so isolated, would have no reason to move unless absolutely necessary. But that single arm twitch, sharp, precise, deliberate, suggested something else entirely. The squid was responding to something. When the research team reviewed the footage frame by frame, they noticed something they'd missed in real time. Approximately 8 seconds before the arm contracted, there was a faint disturbance in the water, barely visible on camera. A pressure wave, the kind produced by movement. Something had passed nearby, not close enough to see, not close enough to threaten the squid, but close enough to be detected. Dr. Judkins and her colleagues began cross-referencing this with older footage. In the 2007 Gulf of Mexico encounter, they found similar moments. Subtle shifts in arm position, minor adjustments in angle, always preceded by disturbances too small for the ROV's instruments to register clearly. The bigfin squid wasn't simply dangling its arms into the void. It was using them to map its surroundings. At depths where light doesn't penetrate, where sound travels unpredictably, and where scent disperses too slowly to be useful, the bigfin squid had developed a solution that seemed almost impossibly refined. Those thread-thin arms, stretching up to 11 meters in every direction, functioned like an array of antennae, detecting minute vibrations, pressure changes, and chemical traces across a sphere of awareness far larger than its body. It wasn't a passive predator, it was a patient one. And that distinction changes everything we thought we understood about survival in the deep ocean. Evolution in the abyss doesn't follow the same rules as evolution in the light. On the surface, where energy is abundant and competition is fierce, natural selection favors speed, aggression, and efficiency. Predators evolve to chase. Prey evolves to flee. The entire ecosystem operates on a principle of constant movement. But 4 kilometers below the surface, movement is a luxury most organisms can't afford. The deep sea is a desert, not in temperature, but in resources. Organic matter drifts down from the surface in a slow, constant rain called marine snow. Fragments of dead plankton, fecal matter, decaying tissue. It's the only source of nutrition for most abyssal life, and it's unpredictable. A deep-sea predator can't chase its food because there's nothing to chase. It can't hunt in bursts of speed because the energy cost would be fatal. Instead, it has to wait. And waiting requires a body plan optimized not for action, but for endurance. The bigfin squid represents an extreme version of this strategy. Its arms, those impossibly long, delicate filaments, aren't just tools for feeding. They're sensory organs, fishing lines, and perhaps most importantly, surface area. The longer the arms, the greater the volume of water they can monitor. The more space they cover, the higher the chance of encountering prey in an environment where prey is measured in grams per cubic kilometer. But there's a trade-off. Long, thin arms are fragile. They can't generate force. They can't overpower struggling prey. And they can't be retracted quickly if a larger predator appears. Which raises an uncomfortable question. If the bigfin squid is this vulnerable, this slow, this exposed, What's keeping it alive? In 2012, footage from the Perdido Fold Belt captured something that had never been seen before. A bigfin squid, hovering at 2,600 meters, suddenly retracted all 10 arms upward in a smooth, coordinated motion. The movement took less than 3 seconds. The squid's body tilted backward, fins beating rapidly, and the entire creature ascended nearly 50 meters before the ROV lost visual contact. Something had startled it, but the ROV cameras never captured what. The deep ocean is full of predators, sleeper sharks, deep-sea fish with jaws that unhinge to swallow prey twice their size. Other squid species, some of them enormous, that hunt in the same depth ranges where bigfin squid have been observed. And yet we've never filmed a bigfin squid being attacked. We've never found remains in the stomach contents of known deep-sea predators. We've never seen evidence of scarring, missing limbs, or defensive wounds on any of the individuals we've encountered. It's as if the bigfin squid exists in a separate layer of reality, seen but untouched. One theory suggests that the squid's extreme fragility might actually be a form of defense. Predators in the deep sea are opportunistic. They can't afford to waste energy on prey that won't provide a sufficient caloric return. A bigfin squid, with its thin arms and tiny body mass, might simply not be worth the effort. Another theory is darker. What if the bigfin squid isn't avoiding predators at all? What if it's operating at a depth and in a manner that places it outside the normal predator-prey dynamics entirely? At 4,000 meters, there are fewer predators simply because there are fewer organisms of any kind. The bigfin squid might have found a niche so extreme, so isolated, that it's effectively alone. Not safe, just alone. Every animal must reproduce. It's the one non-negotiable requirement of life. And yet when it comes to the bigfin squid, we have no idea how reproduction happens. Most squid species engage in elaborate mating rituals. Males display color changes, aggressive posturing, physical combat with rivals. Females select mates based on size, health, and genetic fitness. Mating itself is often violent. Males use a specialized arm called a hectocotylus to transfer sperm packets directly into the female's mantle. But the bigfin squid doesn't seem to follow this pattern. We've never observed two individuals together. We've never seen mating behavior. We've never found egg masses. In fact, we've never conclusively identified a male or female bigfin squid. Sexual dimorphism, the physical differences between males and females, is common in cephalopods, but the specimens we've observed show no obvious markers. It's possible the differences are internal. It's also possible we simply haven't seen enough individuals to notice. What we do know is that in 2004, fishermen in the North Atlantic recovered 2 juvenile Magna pinna specimens tangled in deep-sea trawling nets. Both were less than 10 centimeters long. Their arms were proportionally shorter than the adults we've filmed, only about twice the length of their bodies. This suggests that the extreme arm elongation develops over time. But it also raises another question. Where are the juveniles? If bigfin squid reproduce in the deep ocean, there should be developmental stages. Hatchlings, adolescents, subadults. We should be encountering them at different sizes in different locations. But we don't. Almost every sighting has been of a fully mature adult hovering alone in the abyss. Some researchers believe the juveniles might inhabit shallower water, perhaps between 500 and 1,000 meters, before descending to abyssal depths as they mature. Others think the juveniles might be pelagic, drifting in open ocean currents far from where the adults are found. But these are guesses. Educated guesses, perhaps, but guesses nonetheless. The bigfin squid reproduces somewhere, somehow. It has to. But the process remains completely invisible to us. One of the most disturbing aspects of the bigfin squid isn't what we've observed, it's what we haven't. In 30 years of scattered sightings, we have never filmed 2 bigfin squid in the same frame. Never. Not once. For a species that must reproduce sexually, this level of isolation is almost unthinkable. Most deep-sea organisms have adapted to their sparse environment by developing ways to locate mates across vast distances. Anglerfish use bioluminescent lures. Some species of octopus release chemical signals that drift for kilometers. Whales sing songs that travel across entire ocean basins. But the bigfin squid appears to have none of these adaptations. No bioluminescence. No calls or sounds that we've detected. No visible behaviors that suggest communication. If they're calling to each other, we can't hear it. If they're signaling, we can't see it. And if they're using chemical cues, they're doing so in an environment where currents are so weak that scent trails would take days, possibly weeks, to dissipate. Dr. Vecchione has suggested that bigfin squid might have extremely large home ranges, perhaps thousands of square kilometers per individual. In such a scenario, encounters between squid would be rare but sufficient for reproduction over evolutionary timescales. But this creates another problem. How does a species with such low encounter rates maintain genetic diversity? Inbreeding should be catastrophic. And yet, DNA analysis of the few tissue samples we've recovered shows no signs of genetic bottlenecking. The population, whatever size it is, appears healthy, which means either the population is much larger than we think, spread across the entire deep ocean in numbers we can't begin to estimate, or the bigfin squid has a reproductive strategy so alien, so unlike anything else in the animal kingdom, that we wouldn't recognize it even if we witnessed it. There's a theory that's gained traction in recent years, though it remains controversial. Some researchers believe the bigfin squid isn't a single species. It's several. The genus Magnapinna currently contains at least 4 described species, all based on minor differences in fin shape, arm structure, and geographical distribution. But the descriptions are incomplete, based on fragments, grainy footage, tissue samples so damaged by pressure changes that meaningful analysis is almost impossible. What if what we're calling bigfin squid is actually a family of related species, each one adapted to slightly different depths, different regions, different prey types? It would explain the isolation. If each species occupies a narrow ecological niche, individuals might be rare even within their own species range. It would explain the variation in arm length. It would explain why we've never seen 2 together. They might not be compatible for mating even if they encountered each other, but it doesn't explain the posture. Because regardless of species, regardless of location, every bigfin squid we've ever filmed does the same thing. It hovers, arms down, motionless, waiting. There's something profoundly unsettling about the bigfin squid that goes beyond its appearance. It's not just that it looks alien. Plenty of deep-sea organisms look alien. Anglerfish with their distended jaws, gulper eels with bodies that seem to be nothing but mouth, barrel-eye fish with transparent heads. The ocean is full of nightmares, but the bigfin squid is different. It's the stillness. When you watch footage of a bigfin squid, you're watching something that shouldn't be still. Squid are active predators, intelligent, reactive. They're supposed to move, to hunt, to interact with their environment. But the bigfin squid just hangs there, like it's been suspended by invisible strings, like it's waiting for something that will never come. And the longer you watch, the more you realize that you're not looking at a creature in its natural state. You're looking at a survival strategy so extreme, so minimalist, that it's reduced one of the ocean's most sophisticated predators to something closer to a plant. It doesn't move because it can't afford to move. It doesn't hunt because hunting is too expensive. It doesn't flee because there's nowhere to flee to. It exists in a state of perpetual suspension, hovering at the edge of survival, in a place where survival itself is barely distinguishable from death. And somewhere, thousands of meters below the surface, right now there are bigfin squid doing exactly this, hovering, arms extended into darkness, waiting for prey that might not come, waiting for mates they might never find, waiting in an environment so hostile, so devoid of life, that waiting is the only strategy that works. We've explored less than 5% of the ocean floor. 5%. The rest remains as unknown to us as the surface of an alien planet. And in that unexplored 95%, there are likely thousands of species we've never seen. Entire ecosystems operating on principles we don't understand. Creatures whose biology would challenge everything we think we know about life. The bigfin squid is a reminder of that ignorance. Every time we send a camera into the deep, we're rolling dice, hoping to glimpse something, hoping the lights don't fail, hoping the pressure doesn't crush the equipment, hoping that whatever we find doesn't disappear before we can study it. And even when we do find something, when we capture 11 minutes of footage, when we recover a fragment of tissue, when we map a new species, we're left with more questions than answers. Because the deep ocean doesn't give up its secrets easily. It shows us just enough to know that we're missing something, just enough to know that beneath our feet, beneath thousands of meters of cold, crushing water, there are things moving in the dark, things hovering, things waiting, and we have no idea what they're waiting for. The bigfin squid isn't a nightmare because it's dangerous. It's a nightmare because it exists in a place we can't reach, living in a way we can't comprehend, and every time we try to understand it, the ocean pulls it back into the dark, leaving us with nothing but grainy footage, and the certainty that somewhere, right now, it's still down there, still waiting.